Former Blazers star Damian Lillard's playoff run ends a little too early. The Blazers make some assistant coaching changes. Is the center position the only position on this team that appears settled? And also, what are the Blazers going to have to do in the next few years to get in the race in the West? Because the West is stacked, Craig. I'm Aaron Fentress of the Oregonian. Here's the Blazer Focus Podcast with my man, Craig Birnbach. It's been a minute. We were supposed to come back soon, and I was just like, I just didn't want to talk to you for a couple weeks. I was like, I'm done with Craig. He's getting on my nerves, talking bad about Anthony Simons. Talking bad about Anthony Simons. I'm like, I don't want to deal with him right now in off-season mode.
Never talk bad. Never talk bad by Anthony. Never talk bad. Just said it was a lost season.
Did you get that letter from my attorney, by the way? Did you get that?
A cease and desist?
Cease and desist of all disrespect towards one Anthony Simons. Anyway, good to see you, man. How you been? I've been
all right. I'm hanging in,
That's
checking
good.
out the playoffs. I got a certain root and interest. Things going so far, so good.
I know. You got to be giddy.
Lost a few years of my life though watching those games. They have not been cruise control.
Nope.
Certainly exciting seeing the Knicks, but and watching the West. And it's funny, we do these little rundowns, and I check them out, and I was thinking the exact same thing about the West watching the playoffs. Like, not like how do you get back into, just not stinking, like but how do you get to contention? You're like, oh my God. So much is going to have to go wrong for so many teams. Like, these stars are going to have to just break. They're just going to, at 25, just be like, oh, that was it.
Yeah, that's it. Injury.
Man, there's some good players playing in this.
Anthony Hardaway situations out there. All right, let's start with Dame first, though. So, how many games did you watch of that series?
I watched I watched almost all of them, at least, including the last one, which was just the sad one where, he's trying to play on a bad leg without the reason for why he came in Giannis, and I just felt bad.
It's sad from a sports standpoint. It's sad, and I was in communication with him a little bit during the season, and I said to him one night, I was like, dude, how frustrating is this? He's like, it's extremely frustrating because he left a situation where they weren't going to win anytime soon after staying there probably too long. He goes into a great situation where you're playing with a guy who's better than you. And I've always questioned if he was a true championship number one. And I always found it refreshing too that he would even say, like, playing with someone better than him, that he wasn't intimidated by that or scared about it. He saw that, he kind of needed a big man. And if you have a big man who's elite, he's probably going to be quote unquote better just because he's a big man, right? And so he goes to play with Giannis, and then Giannis has the calf thing on April 9th. And even I was thinking, that can't be that big a deal. It's just a calf. You can walk it off, rub some Robitussin on it. I don't know, do something. But he missed the entire series. And then Dame had that amazing first quarter in game one or first half. Then he had kind of a better all-around game in game two, but they lost. Then they come home, overtime game, and dude tweaks his Achilles after injuring his knee. And he misses 2 games, and he comes back, and they get blown out. And it's just bad luck on top of bad luck. However, he displayed great positive energy afterwards.
Always does.
Talking about getting pumped up for the summer and whole offseason with his team as opposed to last year when he dove right into training camp because he got traded. They got coaching change midseason. Doc Rivers comes in. Now he has a whole offseason to be in communication and working within the system that Doc wants to impose. And Doc, I think they're going to be a lot better next year within what Doc wants to do, simply because they'll have all offseason and training camp in the full season. But you have to wonder, though, next year at this time, Dame's going to be 34 going on 35. Giannis is not going to get any younger. You're kind of like going to be holding your breath again that you can remain healthy, right?
So I will say that is the NBA, right? You see guys Luka Doncic right now, his knee is not great. And he almost is at 75%, and you're like, oh, if he goes, the Mavs have no chance. They're done. Right. So this is a star league. We say it all the time. And if your stars can't play, they can't play. Look at the Clippers. Kawhi, done. Kawhi can't play, they're done. Yeah. Kawhi can play, they might win that series, because it was that kind of going back and forth. But so it's always going to be that way. If you're a Bucks fan, it's frustrating. If you're Dame, it's kind of like if he's hurt, then it's on him, right? And I think it's easier to process that, okay, that's on me, not on the team. I will say, even though it ended in the first round, which it's kind of like he had the same thing happen in a different uniform. He had his moments, you know what I mean, where he had a game where he scored 32, I think it was in the first half. The whole world's talking about Dame.
Yeah.
Dame time. Everyone's, tapping their wrist, and then something goes wrong, or they're just not good enough. They're not good enough without Giannis. The whole thing changes. It does make you frustrated if you're Dame, in the sense that for the first time, he's where the regular season doesn't even matter.
Right.
Like, if Giannis and Dame are healthy and they've got and Middleton is healthy, like if those three go into a series with a decent supporting cast, it doesn't matter if they're the 1 seed or the 8 seed or the 12. You know what I mean? Like, they're good enough to win a championship. With Dame, it was never that way. It was always like, well, we know they can't beat the top 2-3 seeds here. Right. So how far can they go? And if they get 12, they this is pre-playing, but you're like, if you're 8, you play 1, you're hosed. And so that's got to be interesting because, like you said, they're going to be better with getting a coaching change. That after a coaching change, that's the other thing. It's not like, oh, they left their coach at 10 years. No, they had a new guy, and they instantly were like, that was bad. Our bad on that. Like, can we bring Bud back, or something? So yes, it'll be better regular season as long as they stay healthy. Achilles scares you though, strained Achilles, because the next Achilles injuries are usually season ending. You know what I mean? Like, there aren't a lot of strained, or there's some Achilles tendonitis you deal with. People do. Hartenstein's had that with the Knicks, but let's hope and calf. What do we always worry about with calf? Is it really the calf or is it the Achilles, right? So they're both on these places where you worry, but it'll be interesting to see what the Bucks do in the offseason as far as what kind of, if they make any changes, or do they think they can just run it back and try again with everyone healthy? But it was still better than for him, still better than staying with the Blazers.
Right. So I was going to bring that up. So given what happened this year, I mean, this is kind of an obvious question, but any reservations or feelings that maybe he should have stuck it out with Portland? I mean, it didn't work out. No, of course not. Yeah, he made the right decision. He said himself, he's like, it's great to be in a situation where championship is the thing. That's, and it's not a fantasy, championship chase. It's like, it's right there. And that's all he's wanted. He just wanted to end his career with a chance. And if they don't win it, he's got 3 years left on his deal, or he's got 4. He has 3. If they don't win it, they don't win it. And I think but hey, I had 4 chances at it with Giannis and it didn't work. And now I can go on with my life and I'll be the point guard version of Charles Barkley. Well, I'll be the next John Stockton, I guess, so to speak, where I had a great career and didn't win a title, but at least I had a crack at one, whereas in Portland,
yeah, but there's, you say that there's Carmelo. I mean, there's so many great players that, Patrick Ewing, so many great players that didn't win titles. But for him, he's never shied away from my fault. True. Even when it wasn't his fault, he said, my bad. I had to play better. And that's, Milwaukee got a taste of his professionalism. And the thing with Dame is his professionalism it's like 90% real. There's 10% where he's mad and this is BS, probably with, he's back in with his family and his, close friends, but mostly he has a true belief in himself and his ability to do, if he's at the top of his game, that he can lead his team almost there on his own. And we know Giannis can get there with a little help. I mean, he needed help to win a championship, not winning on his own. But Giannis is still, we use the term unicorn, but he's still unlike anyone else in the league when he's healthy.
Do you think Blazers fans should want to see Dame succeed and win a championship, or not?
I don't think they should. I think they get to make up their own minds. I mean, being mad at Dame to me is silly. What did you want from him? And also, if he's stuck here, that would have ruined Cronin's plan and the franchise's plan. They could say whatever they want, but they needed to move on from him,
right?
Because $55 million contract is not going to, on one player, is not going to help you. I mean, they're in a position right now that they're over the cap. They're in a place that no rebuilding team should be in without him. with them, they're even worse, right? It wasn't gonna, as soon as they drafted Sharp, it was almost over. And then when they drafted Scoot, it was really, really over. Like there was no place. So if you're a Blazers fan and you have some kind of flow chart that showed you drafting Sharp, drafting Lillard, and still getting to a world championship, like that's fantasy. That's not real. So you shouldn't be mad. And why would you not root for a guy that gave you so much joy and his heart and soul to succeed? He's not and he never backstabbed anyone or whatever. He just said, "That's it. I want to go now. It's time." And if you guys won't admit it, I'll be the adult in the room and I'll admit it.
I'll be the bad guy.
Like, sadly, this marriage is over. We love each other, but you want certain things and I want certain things, and we can't do them together. So, boom.
Agreed. All right, Blazers have made there's going to be some assistant coaching changes for the Blazers. We already know that Steve Hetzel left a couple weeks ago to go join his boy Jordi Fernandez, who's a new head coach with the Brooklyn Nets. They're for BFFs, so he brought his boy in. That's cool. And
that's always a great place.
Yeah, and then also Scotty Brooks is not going to be renewed. His contract won't be renewed, and that of Rodney Phillips as well. What I'm being told is that it's not necessarily, it's not like a blame game situation. It's just what are the best fits for what we need as we're trying to revamp this thing. The Brooks thing to me, like, and I said this to you 2 months ago about Chauncey. If I'm Chauncey, I want my option picked up or a new contract if I'm sticking around for this rebuild, which is going to take some time. Same thing would apply to someone like Scott Brooks. Like, if you're Scott Brooks, you came here with Chauncey to help Dame win, right? And so all of a sudden now you're trapped in this rebuilding situation. Why would you want to do that? I don't understand why Scott Brooks would want to do that. I'm sure he's going to have other far better opportunities with far further along franchises. So I just don't see why you'd keep a guy like that around anyway, because you need someone in that first assistant's chair who's going to want to be there during this rebuilding process. And I just don't believe Brooks wanted that or needed that or would want to end his career like that. So to me, it's just a matter of like minuscule little moves and processes. And that's just, to me, honestly, don't mean anything. They just don't mean anything.
Well, right. It doesn't really matter that much because
it's all about talent acquisition. It's not about the assistant coaches.
Yes. It's just interesting because Scotty Brooks didn't move on his own the way it's being said. Like, he's not being renewed, and maybe he's just going to jump into another. Maybe he said, "I'm not coming back anyway," right? And Chauncey's brother. You can't. It's a little weird, right? Like, it's your brother. Like, did Chauncey really not want his brother? So that's where there's no insight that anyone has gotten on that. Heck, we don't know. Maybe Chauncey's brother and Chauncey talked and said, "Hey, it's better for you to do something else without me now." Or but yes, in the long run, what does it matter? Like, Scotty Brooks was the guy that was brought in to give Chauncey the head coaching experience on the bench, right? Because he's had it. Another point guard who played in the NBA, so someone to relate to Damian Lillard. But also when Chauncey's like, "Okay, I've never been here before." You have, right? So what do? Well, now Chauncey's everywhere they're going to go next year. Chauncey's been. They lost 10 in a row. They won 3 in a row. Like, now, admittedly, if they get to 6-7 games in a row wins, he's going to be like, I don't know what do I do here? But you can figure it out. And like you said, it's going to be guys that are going to have to work with really young talent and move them along. And look, we don't know who's replacing him yet. So it's always interesting to find that out. But is this coaching staff going to be with them when they're contending? I don't know. I wouldn't put my money on that for sure. Like, I don't see them being here in 6 years or whatever it's going to take. And that kind of leads us into our next thing. Like,
yes, it does.
Where's the room in the West, people? Where is it? You can't sneak into the playoffs, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you're watching this.
So you and I were both watching the playoffs separately, and we were both thinking the same thing as we discussed before the show. We're watching these Western Conference teams, and we knew it during the season, but just watching them in a series, watching OKC advance, watching Minnesota advance, and how good Edwards looks,
Gosh,
which is
he looks
like,
good.
dude is Jordan Jr., man. I'm not saying he's Jordan. I'm just saying the
I mean, everyone shies away like someone's going to. Like, people are worried like lightning's going to strike you if you say the word Jordan or any other player. Like, you're not going to Harold Miner him. Like, he is awesome.
I get the same vibes when I was saying this about Kobe back in the day. It's like you're seeing a carbon copy of what Jordan was, I think. And
I just see a guy who has skills that others don't have, and he creates in ways that you're like, I don't think he ever did that before. Like, that's not, like that double spin come back and, flip it on for the other side. Oh, did he just dunk from the foul line on like three people's heads? Like that he just decided at that moment he wasn't seeking it. So, and I even see more, and this is no disrespect to Kobe, but I see more Jordan and Edwards because of the creativity of him inventing while he goes. Kobe was he knew where to, there was very little that he would do
that was unplanned,
that he hadn't practiced 50 times. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, this is my thing. And Jordan had that aspect, and that I'm creating on the fly because I'm just up here. I'm up here in the air and I got stuff to do. Like, Edwards jumps up and hits his head on above the rim. He's like, I got stuff to do. I could do. Like, I got a while. Like, what am I going to do with my hands right here? I'll do this little flippy flip. And his jumper and his pizzazz, confidence. I mean, come on. He tells his other guy, stop bleeping fouling so much. It's just like that's, and it's funny. And his intensity is so up there,
Yeah.
There's so much of Jordan that I don't think people can be, because I still think Jordan's one of the smartest athletes to ever walk the earth. And his ability to say the right thing all the time and the wrong thing at the right time still. Like, he just was, and the stuff he did off the court, and it wasn't perfect, and it would be interesting to see a Jordan in this day and age, like, what would he have done with social media? Like, would he have just stayed off of it? Because it's really hard, because that's where Edwards has gotten in a little bit of trouble every once in a while,
Yeah.
But if you want to be a global star, you can't be a zero on social. Like, that's just not
Jordan
the world.
would have been on social media on the golf course betting someone $20,000 on a putt.
Right, and then maybe get in trouble.
Right, that would have been on video. Exactly.
Yes. And when, the politics stuff that he stayed away from is, famous thing, Republicans buy sneakers too. Like, what in the nonstop world, it's hard for he was 20, 21, 22, 23-year-old people to not do something a little bit, get them in trouble or some way. But on the court, Edwards is great. But when you look at, OKC is just stacked, and, the young, so
and
young.
How many first round picks do they have?
Oh, like a 722. Like,
is it 15 for them or 15 for Utah, or 15 for both? I can't remember.
But I was going to say, like, Utah's not even on your list here that you put out. And you're like, well, Utah's got, potential and young. Phoenix is not on, like, there's a huge disappointment. The Lakers are huge disappointments. And these are franchises that have ownership that does stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, yes. It's crazy. Like, your list that you put up there doesn't include a team that has Kevin Durant, Booker. Okay, so I know you were talking about young people, but I'm just saying, like,
right.
Like, they're not dead yet. Like, they're not gone.
But here's what I'm thinking. It's a foregone conclusion that the Blazers are at least years away. And years can mean 2 to 20, right? 2 to 1,000,000. So they're clearly committed to Scoot and Sharp. So you need those two to develop. And we saw how far away they are from being a dynamic playoff duo, let alone a contending duo. So let's just say 3 years from now, they pop to it like, okay, these guys are good. Maybe not one's an all-star, but they're good. And Aiden comes along and they're starting to be a team that can get to 500, get into the playoffs. The problem is the T-Wolves, OKC, the Spurs, and Houston, And even Luka's only what, 24?
25. Just turned 25.
Right. So
just turned 25.
They're the best players for those teams are going to still be in their prime, with Luka being the oldest one.
Yes.
So you have to not just have Scoot and Sharp come up, you have to just amass a lot of talent around them and hope one of them becomes special. Like, they can't just be good.
Oh,
you have to have at least one all-star, but with this field, you're going to need two all-stars, and one needs to be at least like a top 8 MVP candidate. Because how are you going to deal with this? And I would argue, I'm going to put this out there now just for the funsies, there's a serious danger when those two get older, where one of them says, maybe I want to go play with Wemby, if Wemby doesn't already have one of what that person is. The whole league's going to be trying to do that, I think. Right? Don't you agree? Not the whole league, but a lot of people are going to be trying to get there. To play
of course.
Guy, right?
Of course.
So Phoenix, and the reason why I left Phoenix off is because they're getting old, but I think Phoenix will be back. And if they make a move, they'll be back next year. People crap on Beal. The problem with Beal is he's redundant because of Booker, but Beal shot 50% and 40-something on threes. The problem is he doesn't play defense. So you don't need a third scorer who's just a scorer.
Yeah.
You need a guy who can actually play some D. No?
Yeah, and he's not a real point guard, and they played without a point guard. You know, when they had Chris
they
Paul,
need
they
a
were
point
so
guard.
much better
Right.
because Kevin Durant could get a shot anytime. Devin Booker could get a shot anytime. So you had two guys that could score, and you needed defense and a guy to help set them up and relax them and get them in good position, and they didn't.
Right. But they're going to be old regardless.
But they got now it's new ownership, but they got an aggressive new rich owner. I'm just saying, like, you didn't even include, and I will say, like, you just talked about Wemby, and also not on your list is Memphis and New Orleans, who have John Morant and Zion, right? Like, and
right. So
and obviously huge trouble. But there, you know that you can hope that Scoot and Sharp have at least that upside, right? That you've already seen with those two guys. We don't even know. Like Ja, you're like, if Ja stays on the court, what he did at 20 and 21 was off the charts. Like, look at his team now. It's just garbage without him. And with him, they were like contenders possibly.
Right.
And Zion, when healthy, and he played a lot of games last year. He made huge strides last year. Just got hurt the wrong time in the playoffs, And if he matures, he's 20. What is he, 21? Zion, is he 22?
He's
22. I'm just saying, like, they're not super
disagree.
old, right?
Right.
But they're 28.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Those guys are going to be 25. It is now, not all of this is going to work, right? Some of these teams are going to break and there are going to be injuries, but like, you're going to need so much to go wrong for those teams to, come down. And then you don't have your one guy yet. Like, you just talked about, you have to, it's still on hope. You're still hoping that these two guys turn into, one of those guys that we've just mentioned. Like Sharp's he's not even Bradley Beal yet.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, he's not a guy that can shoot 49% from three and over 50. And Scoot is not even he's not even an average starter in the NBA yet. Like, he was,
correct.
He's below. I mean, he's not the Knicks. He's not even close to like Jalen Brunson, which obviously that's a huge difference now. But you know what I mean? Like, that's a second round pick that rose up. So it's not like it's impossible, but yeah, it's not like the East is crap, like it's just not the same.
It's just not, it's not as deep.
And what are you going to do with them? Like, you still don't have a plan going forward with what because Simons isn't 100.
Simons has to go for Simon's sake. I'm on the Simons train.
There
Simons
it is.
I've alluded to that.
you've been close, but you're there now. Like,
he needs to go for himself.
Oh, I agree. There's no reason for him to stay.
Redundant for the team. They're committed to Scoot, so you got to move Simons. At some point, they're going to move Simons. At some point, he's going to say, "Get me out of here. I want to go win. I don't want to sit around and waste my time."
And he should do it sooner rather than later.
Am I a 2? Am I a 2? Am I a 1? Like, what am I?
Right.
Am I a starter? Am I not a starter? Like, he needs. Someone tweeted the other day that Orlando could really use someone like Ant.
Of course.
You're right.
Of course.
Make a deal.
It's like
Ant
so
to
obvious,
Orlando
right?
for something you need. Wendell Carter and someone else. I don't know.
But anything over 6'6" would be fine. Like even 6'6", if you play big, and it wouldn't matter. But yeah, because next year, he's not young. Like 26 isn't young anymore. Like he's not the young gun.
He's crossing over to like, okay, you're starting to get up there. You're close to your prime. You're no longer a kid.
Yeah.
All right. So Spurs, Grizzlies, Rockets, and the Kings are still relatively young too.
Relatively young and good.
The reason why I didn't list the Pelicans in that group is because Zion hasn't been able to stay healthy. He got hurt in playing. And something's going on with Ingram. He may or may not return. McCollum's getting kind of old. But still, Zion's better than anything the Blazers have. Dallas, Timberwolves, Nuggets, Thunder. Like that's 8 right there who have players. Their number one players way better than anything the Blazers probably will ever have. And a lot of those franchises are super young to where by the time these guys even get to the point where you say, hey, Portland's looking pretty good, they're still going to be swimming in a sea of deep teams led by stars, major stars. And if you can't combat that, you're screwed. And that's why I think it's obvious that Cronin wants back in the lottery next year. I don't think they're going to do anything to get in the way of that because that's a deep draft and he's got to get someone from that draft. And so this is going to be a minute before
and
the Blazers win a first round playoff series. Let alone get
to me, get yourself, find the one. Like, gosh, get out of a season where you're like, okay, that's our Damian Lillard going forward.
Right.
You know what I mean? At least. Because, look, even Utah's got 7,000 draft picks and they haven't, and they have an all-star. And that's something. He's 7 feet tall and 26. So, like, even them who were 20 games below 500, the Jazz, like you don't even look at them as like a worry, but you're like, they're starting with something that, the Blazers would give anything for. A 26-year-old 7-footer who was an all-star, right? They've got that in DeAndre Ayton that they're just hoping, that he could get to that level and be consistent. Right. And, market and average 23 and 8. Like,
here's the problem with Utah's draft picks, though. Moving forward, this is the problem. You got Cleveland's, you got Minnesota's in 2025. Those might not be great. You got Minnesota or Cleveland in 26. Of course, you got your own mixed in there too. In 27, you got Cleveland's. 27, you got the Lakers. That could be interesting. 27, you also have Minnesota's. That's not going to be good. 28, Cleveland, unless Mitchell's gone, that's not going to be great. And you got Cleveland again, and you got Minnesota again. So the picks might not be great, but you package them. Package 3 or 4, and you go out and get someone if you can get someone to want to play in Utah. I go get Donovan Mitchell back. I'd say, hey, I'll give you your picks back.
I'd go get Anthony Simons.
Well, there you go too.
I'm saying, like, that's still the Blazers don't have. I mean, the Blazers don't have this Trevor Trove of picks.
They're gonna have two. They got one first Golden State this year. They're gonna have 2 more firsts and some swaps. But they're gonna trade Brogdon. They're gonna trade Grant at some point.
They're gonna have to get him. That's what I'm saying, right?
Trade Ant, and that's gonna be probably a way to get more.
You would hope. And this year, look, everyone's like, the draft's terrible. You got 2 picks, bad draft to get in them. And you're like, yeah, but somebody's going to be an all-star in this draft. Like, find the one. You know what I mean? Like, get lucky, because that's what you got to do. You're going to have to get lucky. I mean, everyone, if you look, that's half of it is luck. I mean, my team, there's no way. I love the Knicks signing Brunson, because I'm a Knicks fan. Like, we have not had a real point guard for like ever. Like, we didn't win championships because of that. Like, Mark Jackson, we're looking back on. Like, Greg Anthony didn't suck. I mean, we tried Derek Harper. We tried everybody.
Yeah, and Mark and Starbury.
Exactly. He was not back then. No one wanted him to be even included as a point guard. He'd be way different now because he was ahead of his curve on that. Like, he's like, oh, I don't want to pass to you because I'm better. And now every point guard in the NBA does that. And it's not, but the Knicks are coming off like, Rory Sparrows and stuff. I'm just saying like that, but the Knicks got lucky. They paid $20-something million to a guy who's an all NBA player. People get drafted, like everyone knew Doncic was going to be, obviously he was picked in the top 10. But did you know he was going to be, like, it's a little luck that he's that good. Jokic, like, I'm not saying that sometimes it's just bad luck with guys, but you got to have the picks to try to get lucky. You know what I mean? Like, and you have to have cap space. And that's the other thing where the Blazers, like, I'm not saying nobody talks about it, but every once in a while you'll get the reminder from the Bobby Marks of the world, that are like, hey, just so you know, Blazers, you're leaning on that apron, on that second apron, and nobody who's won as few games as you should have their salaries this high. And the crazy part, there's not a lot of dump contracts on the Blazers. Grant, it's not a dump. He's not a dump. You can't just, no one's just going to take because he's not 1 year away.
That was one of the points I made during the season. Like, you have a team of guys that you signed or you acquired that have big deals, and you've talked them up. And, I mean, Ayton, Grant, Ant, that's 890, 60, was that 66? That's 86 million a year between those three. Brogdon, you want to move, but he's 20, right? Williams, you kind of want to keep, he's 10.
That's at least
Matisse
20 to get rid of real easy.
Right, Matisse is 10. So your veteran group, guys that you went and got and talked up, or you kept from leaving, like Matisse, and you kept Grant, it's $110, $115 million.
And no one's on the cusp.
Right, and you got to win. If you're paying that kind of money to guys that you say you kind of like, you better win some ball games. Now, if you have just contracts, you're waiting for them to just go away, that's different. But that's not what they did. So
no.
But the other side of that is, that means you have some quality players under contract that maybe you can trade to get other assets. So we'll see if Cronin can pull that off.
But not quite the quality you would like. But yeah, I mean, those dump contracts that would be expiring now, Cronin got rid of them earlier. He traded CJ,
Okay, so we talked about how the Blazers are going to be bad up until your child's in high school. But
if I make it that long.
So I wrote an article last week and a half ago about the forward situation, just sort of looking at the entire situation. And we've talked about this before. Like, they got all these young forwards, but none of them look like they're going to be an impact starter. Billups himself said there might be a fifth guy out there that was a rotational starter or what have you. And even Cronin basically said, we don't know what that group's going to bring, and they need more. He also said later, we need more overall talent. And to me, when he said that, he was talking a lot about the forward position, and that's the number one need, I think, in this draft. But if there is one position where I think you can say is settled, it's center. Would you agree?
Well, no, I wouldn't.
Come on, you got dominating. Dominating's going to come in next year and be 22-12 the entire season. You have an elite defensive backup, Robert Williams,
all the games,
who's going to be healthy at some point, and you got your pick and pop three specialist and Wraith. You're stacked. To me, that's the only roster where I would say you're legitimately too deep.
So I would tell you that, okay, if we started today, that's good, right? That center position, you don't need to make a move. But I would also tell you that if any of them got traded in the offseason, I wouldn't be surprised. Because
Aiden got traded?
I mean, if you could package, I would be now the Ayton thing would surprise me the most. But if you could get a young 3 or 4, and I don't know how that deal gets made. I would do it. Look, I don't think Ayton is going to be on this team when they're competing, just based on what you just said. I mean, I think their window's 4 years down the road. And unless I don't even know if he's going to want to stay here for that long. Like, he did all the right things in 1 year, because how could he not? He got himself traded from a contending team after being the number 1 overall pick because there was some inconsistency in his game. And the coaching staff didn't love him all the time, and ownership didn't love him, and his teammates didn't love him. They loved him as a person, but not his game, right? So he couldn't come here and do anything but say the right things. But he didn't do all the right things as far as he wasn't like he was really good at stretches, and it wasn't his fault probably, but he didn't come and dominate. He wasn't dominating all season. Williams played 4 games, was out for the season, and he's had
he played six.
Sorry. And he's had so many injury problems. If anyone gave you anything for your future, you should take it. Like if he could get packaged for a first round draft pick of any kind, I would do that in a heartbeat. And you know, I love the pick and pop 27-year-old rookie, but
I'm trying to be positive. You're just pissing all over.
But if you said you think it's getting like no, I don't think it's concrete. Like I almost think your two guard position is because you're not moving sharp. You're not moving sharp, and then you already got like 6 other twos. Like if you're gonna count them, like and you're saying like starting today, you got plenty of guards, but no,
Aiden's
I don't
better
think
than sharp. So we would agree that it's the best position right now, right?
When healthy.
Right. Well, of course, guys got to be healthy, but we can't.
No.
And no position has been healthy the last couple of years. Look at the games played, right? But if Robert Williams comes back and is healthy and plays 60 games,
yes,
and Aiden picks up where he left off and truly has acclimated to everything and is ready to be dominating, and just be,
or even if he's just 18 and 10, like he was with the Suns,
just be consistent. Just be consistent.
Yeah.
And then Reith gives you that versatility with the pick and pop 3, which in my thing I wrote on Reith today,
way better as a starter.
Yeah, did you see that?
I did. I read this Aaron Fentress guy.
He shot 50.5% as a starter and 42% as a backup.
It was shocking how bad the backup stuff was, but
inside the 3-point line, like near the basket, if you're gonna be a center, I don't care if you're a pick and pop center, you need to be able to score inside the back. I need close to the basket, within 10 feet, don't you?
Well, that or you need to be just a defensive giant. You know,
one or the other, but both would be well if you do both and you should.
Yeah, but then you're an all-star. Right? But like I'm just saying, like right now, if you look at your 3 centers, 40%.
Anyway,
your starter supposedly can do it all. You know, he's supposed to be able to back to. You know, he can't shoot the 3, but he's got a very nice mid-range, and he's supposed to be able to play defense. Your number 2 guy offensively is limited to the rim, but he's defensively a monster. And then your 3 right now is the pick and pop guy. So based on what you're explaining, like it's fine, right? Because you're going to be moving them around. And the problem is if you have a guy playing 38, 35 plus minutes, then you also need one of those 2 to be able to play the 4. You know what I mean? Like, because you don't want to just sit them you want to be able to play them together in some kind of way. Not your number 3 center, but if Williams gets healthy, you want him to play 20-something minutes a game, right? I mean, so that he can make a real difference on the defensive end and be a rim rocker, which is helpful to your young point guard. So you got to hope that they can play together a little bit. But again, I thought when they got Williams, the whole point was to trade him. To get to a contender for a first-round draft pick or a young,
agree,
younger player. Yeah. So I would still do that. Honestly, the only 2 guys that I look on this team and that I'd be shocked that if they like, oh my gosh, no way, is if they move Scooter Sharp. Everyone else, I'm like, they're all gettable or movable, just because. Based on what you're saying, there's only 2 guys on this roster that I feel would be or if the Blazers are in a place in 4 years where they're contending, those 2 are the ones that I would say, okay, they're really good. They're either all-stars or borderline all-stars. Everyone else, I'd be like, no, they had to get rid of them, or they're too old, or not good enough.
Exactly. No, I don't disagree.
Third one will be Ayton, because he is only 25.
Right. Or Cooper Flag.
What's that?
Or Cooper Flag.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you can get these guys, but I May 12th, like, do you want to get the number 1 pick this year? Or do you worry about karma? Like, if you get it, you won't get it again. And this doesn't seem like to be the one you want, the number one. I read something like this is like an Anthony Bennett lottery. Like you don't want it. Like this is how you get fired if you're a GM because you get the number one pick and there's no Zion, there's no Wemby. So what do you do? I would lean to not getting the number one. Like hope that you get 3 or something. Like don't get one.
Drafting 1 and missing is way worse than drafting at 3 and missing.
I'm just saying, like, who you drafting 1 right now? There's like 3 names, like, and none of them are like, woohoo! You're like, oh, I've never seen him play. Yeah. Like even Wemby, we had seen so much video of, and I'm looking back at Sarr. I'm like, oh, yeah, he looks tall. He looks like he's athletic, but you're not like, oh, he just broke a 7'4" guy, just broke down, a crossover step back 3, and then blocked 8 shots with his elbow. Like
that's true.
So you just don't want to waste it if next year is that. But gosh, you can another year of 20 some odd wins. It's just so hard to look at.
Maybe they'll. Yeah, it's probably gonna be like that.
You're saying they want to get back in the lottery.
There's no doubt in my mind they want to.
Right, so they got to try to lose.
Yeah. So as of right now, I feel like it's going to be an orchestrated thing, almost like reverse Moneyball.
Maybe.
You do some things you do some things that analytically it's just going to lead to losses, and then the second half of the season, guys start getting hurt. As soon as someone gets any little boo boo, 6 weeks.
I just want to see like one of the, let's say it's the Warriors pick, or maybe somehow Murray comes back and is just like really, really good. Because I just feel that's the thing that has hurt this, that is the most frustrating to me, is they've had so many like lower first round picks and second round picks that are just like, like admittedly, my biggest comparison is always the Knicks. And you look at the Knicks, and Brunson was somebody's second round pick, not theirs, but Deuce McAllister, Deuce is their second round pick. He's got an upside. Mitch Robinson was a second round pick. Like he's like, oh, if he stays healthy, he's something. Like there's no doubt that he helps you win because on the one end, or you sign Hartenstein and he's like, Hartenstein's 25. 25. And he's like doing this stuff that you're like, wow, like, and he's 25. And the Blazers just haven't seemed to get that. Even the Grant signing was just meh. He didn't do as well as you might have hoped when they were trying to win. And then the rest of it, not his fault, but it's not like, oh, yay, and he's 30. So I just want young players that you just like, I wonder what they're going to do tonight. And not be like, meaning, oh, we got 8. He got 8, like 8. And look, he picks up everybody at a full court. Like, just some fun. A guy that dunks like from, like Sharp at least gives you that, right? Like when he's out Sharp there, you're like, oh God, he's going to try to dunk that. He didn't make it, but so what? He tried. And that's what Simons was when he first started playing, right? Like you're like, oh, look at this. And Scoot didn't give us those moments this year, and that many. And hopefully next year he will.
All right. Well, let's end it there. And we got the lottery the 12th, right? What day of the week is that?
That's Sunday. It's Mother's Day.
Sunday.
Yeah, Mother's Day. You might want to put that on your calendar, dude.
Don't.
Just saying. I hope your wife doesn't listen to this. It's also
come back.
Now let me tell you something.
What?
Just full disclosure, it's also my birthday. So like it's not like I just know that. Yeah.
Did the Knicks play that day as well?
I don't know. I go one game at a time. We play tonight, man. I don't look too far ahead. I don't know.
One game at a time.
I do one game at a time.
Let's come back Monday then. Let's book it now. Monday, we're gonna react to the lottery.
Okay, you got it.
And so that means you have to do some draft research based on when they pick. You have to have at least a couple nuggets on a couple dudes.
I like it. He's like, there's no way Craig knows anything about this draft.
I don't know that much about it.
You wouldn't be wrong. Like this draft
I just thought I wasn't going to pay that much attention until the lottery was settled. Then I'll start.
Well, like I said, every article you read about the draft is not about the players. It's about how bad the draft is.
It's all how bad the draft is.
Like that's what everyone's like. That's what the leader. This draft is, very shallow. It's the Anthony Bennett draft. It's this. It's that. Many teams.
I've seen guys in some mocks be in the top 3 and be in the 9-10 range. I don't remember ever seeing that.
No,
where guys are 1, 2, or 3, and then on another mock they're 9-10. It's just crazy. So, all right. Thanks for listening to the Blazer Focus Podcast. I'm Aaron Fentress. He's Craig Birnbach. We'll be back to break down the draft like no one has ever done following the lottery. Take care.